Hello, Lizzie here, and today I'm going to talk to you about the gift giving bags. Now in this pattern you're not just getting one, you're getting 4 patterns, okay, which is really super because it just means that any time of the year, whether it's the holiday season, maybe it's Easter, maybe it's birthdays, whatever the occasion, you'll have the correct size gift giving bag, which is absolutely fantastic. So this covers those 4. 3 are the same sort of, and you've got one that's almost completely different. You can see all the fabrics in front of me. It probably looks a right mishmash, so let's just break it down. So you're getting the carry bag, and all of these are just one piece of fabric, no lining, no stabilizer, all French seams. So actually that's a really nice thing to do because there's no zigzag, or you could make it with an overlock or a serger, but you don't need to. French seams are beautiful, so neat. So you've got the carry bag here, so let's prop that one up. There we are. So that's how it looks, and you can bring those together, tie a ribbon at the top, and you've got a gift bag there, and it has like a faux gusset at the side. You can just see there a faux gusset. Like I say, it's just, well, it's 2 pieces of fabric, but it could be 1 piece of fabric. There is no lining, no stabilizer, no wadding, nothing complicated at all. So you could really make a lot of these, and I've done them with all the same fabric so they all match. So there's the carry bag. The pattern is in this collection here. Then you've got the large drawstring bag, the medium and the small, and they're all slightly different. So the large one has just a regular squared off bottom. You can see what that looks like, and you've got the drawstring there, nice and roomy. You'll be able to get a lot of things in there. You probably could get a bottle of wine in there as well if you wanted to. So that's the large one. Then you've got the medium one. Let's pop that one down. And the medium one, again, drawstring, so it's nice and easy. There's no lining, no interfacing, no wadding, nothing. All French seams again, and really they're all made in the same way with a different twist. So with this one we have a faux gusset in the bottom, so that you can just see there's like a faux gusset. It kind of gives it a bit of detail, and it makes it the bottom a little bit more boxy rather than just the squared off version here. But you could box those off if you wanted to. I'm just giving you ideas. So that's the medium one, and then you've got the little diddy one, the small one, which again is a drawstring, and they're all made in the same way, so I'll cover all of that. French seams again, no lining, no wadding, nothing complicated. You'll run all these up in an hour, and then with this one you've got the side, bit like the carry bag, you've got the faux side gusset there, but it's like I said, they're all done pretty much in the same way, just a little twist as we go through to make them different to each other, I suppose. You could make them all the same. You could make them all with a side gusset here, or with a bottom gusset. You could make them all squared off and box them yourself normally with pinching in those corners and cutting stitching, cutting across. But that's up to you, but I've given you these different ideas to make, and I just love them, and I love the fact that we're using contrasting fabric, but you could do them in all one fabric, so they're all the same. You know, you maybe have a surplus of fabric that you need to use up. This would be a great idea. So you're getting the small one with the side gusset, the medium one with the boxy bottom, and then you've got the large one with it squared off, you can see. And then we've got the carry, which has the side gusset again, if I can pick it up. There we go, has the side there. But it has 2 nice handles. And actually, this folds down really neatly, and it could be a gift just as it is, and it could go into somebody's handbag, back pocket for shopping, because it's strong because of the French seams, and I think it's really attractive. You could put a pom-pom trim in this seam here if you wanted to, or a bit of lace. You could add a pocket. You could do all sorts of things. I'm giving you the basics. So this is your gift giving bag set of 4 patterns, which is terrific, isn't it? And now I don't know what to do with them. Let's pop them over here. I might get them back in a little while. Stay there. So I've decided to do mine in really sort of funky fabrics. So I quite like to do something perhaps the opposite to what I've already done. So with this fabric, it's non-directional. It may look directional, but it's not, which is a good idea because it means you don't have to concentrate too hard on how you put it onto your bag. But that's the bottom part of it, which I think is absolutely super. Sorry, the top part of it. And then you've got the bottom part, a nice contrast. So if you look at it that way, you can see how that turquoise, if you like, is picked up in that main fabric. So I mustn't forget which is top and bottom now. But this hat does have a folded bottom to it. I'll get it out in a minute. Right. So let's start. So we'll start with making the large drawstring bag to start off with. And as you can tell by the pattern, you've got a top and a bottom half, which is really quite nice, isn't it? So to do a French seam, wrong sides together. I know, it'll go against the grain, won't it? And even now I want to do it right sides together. Wrong sides together. There might be a particular, I quite like the foxy on the pattern. I was trying to get him to go the right way, but I'm just not going to try and concentrate on it too much. So it's wrong sides together, and it's the longest sides that you're going to stitch first, and it's about 1/8 of an inch. I wouldn't get too fussed with it, but you want a really small seam. You certainly don't want 1/4 of an inch. And then you're just going to do that first little seam. I wouldn't bother with a back stitch either, because all of the seams get incorporated into another seam. So straight across. There we go. And off, and then remember it's wrong sides together. Now you might want to press this seam now, so not press it nice and flat, and what we'll do is we'll do the other seam the other side, and then I'll press them, because I do like them to look really smart. So wrong sides together, don't forget, you have to keep remembering. You will, I bet once you will do it right sides together, because it's habit for us, isn't it? So wrong sides together. I nearly did it wrong again. I've been doing French seams for I don't know how long, 50 years, and I still have to think about them. 1/8 of an inch. I'll just switch my iron on so we're ready, good to go. And what I'll do is I'll make this large bag, and then I'll talk to you and show you the medium and the small. I won't worry about putting the channel on the top to put the drawstring in. I will finish them off, and I'll show you how it's done with the large bag, but the principles are all the same. So just cut your threads, keep everything neat. Let's bring the ironing mat up. And this is a good tip, you know, if you're doing French seams, it's so easy to perhaps first of all not do a small enough seam, and then not press it so all those seams are lovely and open. So I'm just going to flip that so make sure that's all open. We've got one little bit going the wrong way, and it doesn't matter a huge amount, but it's nice to keep everything neat and tidy. Again, well, let's go from that side. Get it all going the same way. Open those seams up. I'm just pulling on this other fabric, and with my iron I'm holding that down, and that just opens that seam up, and I know when I flip it over it's going to be perfect. I'll give it a little press anyway. Okay, just give that an iron. I'll keep the iron on because we will need it again. The thing about French seams is keeping it all neat, but it's all straight stitching. So you know what, if you've got a machine and you know you can trust the straight stitch on it, then this is such a great technique. French seams, so neat and strong. Not as strong as an overlocked stitch, you know, that's something, you know, completely different, but it makes the inside of all of your bags really neat and tidy. Straight across. So this is about 1/4 of an inch. So straight across, and just fold it on that. You can see I'm just folding it on that seam that I've just stitched. 1/4 of an inch. Don't really need a back stitch because it's going to be incorporated in another seam. So what you've done now is that you've joined the two fronts top. No, that's not right, is it? You've joined the front top and bottom together and the back top and bottom together. Does that make sense? I'm sure it does. You've joined the base to the tops. I'm going to dig myself a hole in it if I say anything else, so I'll just leave it there. So we've done our French seams. Just neaten my threads off. There we go. And this time again, just open those seams up. You not open them up, but press them really well. You may find you might have some little frayed pieces come through from the previous seam, the first seam you did. Now, one of the top tips, and I meant to tell you as I was doing it, is just trim that seam a little bit. Just trim it back, neaten all those frayed edges off. Now, when we're coming to press these seams, what I'd like you to do is to press both French seams the same way. So when we come to nest these together in just a second, the seams will nest rather than they both sit on top of each other. It just adds bulk. So if you nest them, so one seam goes one way, one seam goes the other, it keeps everything really neat. So I'm just going to press that from the front as well. There we go. And this one as well, just to keep it nice and tidy. So I know the front looks as nice as the inside, really. There we go. Super. Right. So with this one, with the big bag, let's just have another look at it again. It's just got a straight bottom, so nothing has been done to make this any special. All the others have different folds to them, and I'm going to show you those. So we're just going to do the French seams down both sides now. So we've stitched this bit here and this bit here. So now we're just going to do those side seams. So again, don't forget, wrong sides together. Like I say, it goes against the grain a little bit. We're kind of tuned into right sides together, aren't we? So once again, you're going to do 1/8 of an inch seam down both sides. Once you stitch them, and while I remember to say, don't forget to trim, because some of these little frayed pieces, especially if you cut the fabric one day and you go to stitch it another day, it might have been moved a couple of times. And of course it will fray the edges, and like I said, you're nesting those French seams on top of each other so they sit nicely. You've got an even distribution of fabric, so even with your little cut ends of thread, just give them a trim. All of these frayed edges, oh, you can see them beautifully. Just trim those off, because you will see them, if you're not careful, on the other side when you do the next seam. So trim those away, and then just run down the other side, 1/8 of an inch. And this is where really you need to just watch your cutting, because obviously your cutting will determine whether your sides will fit together nicely. All the way down. Okay, and then just trim those edges. I'm not sure I've got those beautifully lined up, but that'll be fine. So there we are. So there's our wrong sides together, and there's our seams stitched. But now we need to turn through. So turn it all the way through. Push those corners out. And you really want to make sure they are pushed out, because you're going to catch these in the next part of the process. That's it. And like I said before, ideally you're going to press this. So let's get some of these loose threads out of the way. But for speed, goes against the grain, I'm just going to stitch it. So so about 1/4 of an inch. Really what you want to do is you're just covering up what you've just stitched. So 1/4 of an inch is fine. So I just get my fingers in there, make sure I've opened those seams up. But do take a bit of time to press all those. It really does make a difference. And straight up to the top there. There we go. Just cut those threads off and then come down the other side. Make sure those seams are out, and like I say, if you'd ironed all this, you wouldn't have to do this because it would already be pressed and beautifully neat. The thing is, if you don't push those seams out, you may well see those raw edges of your stitching. There we go. Let's just pull that one out as well. There we go. So all we need to do next is the channel, and that's really easy as well. Don't forget a locking stitch there, because that is your final lot of stitching. And you can see how beautifully neat that is when we turn it through. And then just get our fingers in there. We could get our pokey tool again. There we go. Just push those corners out. This is one little thread there. That's what I'm saying about trimming your seams, because that really does make a difference. So there's our large bag practically done. We just need to make the channel, which is super easy. So you will get the instructions for the size of the channel and what you need to cut. And this piece will go all the way round, and you'll have 2 openings right next to each other, a channel to thread your cord through, or your ribbon, whatever you like. So initially what you're going to do is turn over both ends 1/4 of an inch. So if we look on the overhead there, 1/4 of an inch and then 1/4 of an inch again, like that. And you're going to top stitch that. And you're going to do that both sides, both ends, the short ends. I'm just going to swing this other piece around, this other end. 1/4 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch again. Just lift my foot up, feed the next bit under. Stitch length, I'd say 2.5. You don't need a particularly large stitch or a particularly small stitch. It's just a lovely, easy make. Okay. So there's our piece. Now what I'd like you to do is actually take a moment and iron this in half. So fold it in half and give it a little iron, which I'll bring my board up to do. And then we're going to do a French seam on this as well. And the French seam ends up being on the outside of the bag. And at first you think, oh, that doesn't feel right. But actually, it looks quite nice. It gives the bag a little bit more of a detail to it. So it's quite a nice thing to actually do. So there we are, beautifully pressed. Let's get this out of the way. So you're going to start off at one side, at one seam. Doesn't matter which. I'll just trim that off a little bit. It doesn't matter which, because both the bag front and back is identical, so there's no need to worry about where you start off. But don't forget, it's kind of like wrong sides together, so you're going to, it is and it isn't, because we want to end up making a French seam, so we want it to be really neat. So the first thing you're going to do, and we'll just look on the overhead here how that looks. You've got your folded channel here, and you're just going to offer it up. I know I just must trim this little bit here, look. You're just going to offer it up to your raw edge. And ideally, when you bring the other part round, it's going to sit right next to it, so there's not a gap. If we have a look at the big one that I made, the large one I made, and bring that in, let's see if we can show you how that looks. So it's really nice and neat on the inside, you can see that. But those channels meet up and you can see the cord coming out of both of them, but they meet up, and you've got the French seam on the outside, and that's how it'll look. So it looks really neat, and it kind of adds a little bit of detail there. Be nice actually to have a bit of ribbon or something around there if it's for a lady. So that's the bit we're going to do next. So now you could pin all this or clip it all together. I'm just going to go for it, see how we get on. If you find when you come to it you need to adjust it, so I've got this sort of butted up right to the seam, and like I said to you just a moment ago, you want to end up 1/8 of an inch, by the way, seam allowance at this point. You want to end up where both channels meet. As you come round, if the other one's a bit long, then just stop stitching about 3 or 4 inches away and adjust that. If it's a bit short by 1/4 of an inch, I shouldn't worry about that. It should be fine. It's all been measured for you, but we'll have a look and see how we get on. Like I say, you could pin it. I'm just clipping my raw edges, my little frayed pieces as I'm getting to them, because I know that matters, as we've talked about before. So about 1/8 of an inch. It's a bit like stay stitching. So just bring them all the way around. So just past the halfway mark. So this is where I'm going to offer it up to the other side, where I'm going to meet, and see what it looks like. I don't mind it being a little bit short, but you can't have it too long. It would look funny if it's too long. Well, where would it go? You'd have to trim it. So when I offer that up, it's a perfect fit. But as we know, when we stitch, unless we're using a walking foot, some of this may well shift. So just keep your eye on it and pin it, use clips. Don't be brave like me and just go for it. There's no point being a hero. Okay, so all the way around, let's have a look. You can see there that it fits absolutely perfectly. Those edges are coming together just right. So just literally stitch all the way along and go over your original stitching, and that will secure it. No need to back stitch. A really nice job. So the next stage obviously is to make that into a French seam. So trim your threads again, make sure there's no frayed edges. Honestly, it does make a difference, like giving it a little bit of a haircut. And some fabrics fray more than others, and it's nothing you've done, nothing you need to do. Just neatening it all up. Okay, so there's our channel in, but obviously we want to make that into a French seam. So you're going to turn it. Let me do this on the overhead, then you can see what I'm talking about. I'm still trying to get rid of loose threads. So there we are. Let's show you how it looks. So that's how it looks, where I've just stitched all the way, and look, it meets beautifully, doesn't it? So now what we've got to do is flip that. So you're flipping these two pieces, if you like, over. So if I fold all of this so it's all over, that would be great. So flip it like that, so it looks like that, and then you're just going to fold it over. So, and then you're going to stitch 1/4 of an inch along here. Now ideally you'd press that, okay, you'll make it beautifully neat. First of all, you'll press this with the iron, so this is beautifully neat, and then you're just going to fold it over, and then you're going to stitch 1/4 of an inch along there. Okay, so I'll do it and then I'll show you what it looks like. Sometimes it's oh yeah, that makes sense, and then when you look at it yourself think, what did she do? So I'll show you. So I flipped this over, a couple of little back stitches. Don't make an issue of back stitching because it just can look really ugly. And my machine doesn't want to move. That's it. And 1/4 of an inch again. You don't want to make this channel small, so be careful of your stitching. Just under maybe 1/4 of an inch is perfectly fine, because all you're doing is just encasing that little tiny seam we just did. So a quick mention about my Gold Club. If you haven't joined already, there's no time like the present. Just pop to my website, find the link that says Gold Members Sign Up here, and then you have access to my Facebook weekly events, which is absolutely amazing. My girls love it. And of course you get the free patterns as well. So if you want more information, there is actually a video on YouTube that you can have a little look at. All the way around, take your time. If you've got a bed like this one where you can remove it, let me show you. Oh no, I can't, I've got my machine. I'll show you afterwards, because you can make it into a free arm. And it makes a difference when you're stitching in the round. It's like when you do like trouser legs, when you're doing hems on trouser legs and sleeves and things like that, putting a cuff on, all of those things. It's if you've got a free arm facility, it's great. And I forget that I have it because the main machine I use doesn't have it. It's great for other things, but yeah. So all the way around. Before I even get to them, I'm going to trim those threads, so I don't want them to get caught up in my stitching. So trim them all off. Keep that nicely folded all the way around. Okay. So trim the threads again. There we go. So there we are. You can't see the channels unless I lift it, and this is where you're going to press it. So you can see, and if I show you on the overhead, you can see what that looks like. So we've done the channel and I've pinched those seams together, and I've now made a little French seam which sits on the outside. And actually, let's give it a press. It makes all the difference. And then we'll talk about the other bottoms this bag has. So I have never known a situation where I get so many threads. It's this machine. Oh dear. So yeah, make an effort. Even this, if this is just a gift giving bag where instead of wrapping your gifts up at the holiday season or Christmas, you're going to put them in a bag. This could be fabric that you've had sitting around for, gosh, I've got fabric that's probably close to 35 years old, probably more. And this is the sort of time that you're going to get it out and you're going to say, you are going to be a gift bag. I'm going to use you at last. So I'm just pressing those lovely French seams. Take a bit of time on this, I'm rushing. Making them nice and neat. I have to remember sometimes that I live with these bags and bits and pieces that I make for quite some time, photographing them, showing them off on Facebook Lives and YouTube events, all sorts of different things. And I do have to try and make them neat looking as best I can, even though we're always in a little bit of a hurry. So there's the main bag done, okay, and it's just a square end, so it's dead easy. And then all you're going to do is get some nice cord, and I just like piping cord. I just that's what I like. And you can get piping cord and stuff, or other cords in different colours and things, and of course you can do that. I use a safety pin. I know I should get the proper thing. Somebody said to me the other day I should get a proper bodkin. Listen, I've been doing this for 60 years. If a safety pin's good enough for me, then it's good enough for me anytime. And it's what you get used to, isn't it? We're all different. You do what you want to do and I'll do what I want to do. We'll meet in the middle someday. So just push it all the way through. It reminds me of when my children were little and I'd make them skirts and things that had an elastic. And you just sit there pushing that elastic through, or the cording through, whatever it was. It's happy days. Right, so that's all the way through now. Absolutely fantastic. So I'm just going to put a knot in the end. In fact, I'll knot these together. I think I did with the other ones. Knot them together. This is quite a thick cord. It's beautiful. I love using it. All sorts, bag making and all sorts. So give it a little bit of a tug. And I like it when the ends go frayed. I mean, if this was a bag you're going to use a lot for yourself, then you know you can play about with this and put beads on and all sorts. But if this is a gift giving bag, you're never going to see it again, maybe, or unless it comes back to you as with a gift in. I think that's a terrific idea. Go for that one. So there's our bag done, and then you're just going to draw it up and fill it with goodies. That's easy peasy, isn't it? But let me show you the other two, because they're all made exactly the same except for two changes. Okay, so that's the big one done. So we'll look on the overhead because this is much easier to see. So let me just give this a quick iron, because it's got creased up, waiting to come and see you. It's got creased up a little bit. Don't know how. It's been sitting on my desk for days. So we'll just give it a little press. Now with the, it's so lovely and warm, and with the little one, let me find the little one, here we go. It has like a faux side gusset. Can you see how that looks? And it really is quite a nice little feature. So with the side gusset one, with the little bag, what we've done is when I say we, that's me, I have done the first part of the French seam down the side. So I've joined the base part to the top part, so you can see that's clear enough, isn't it? And I've done that first 1/8 of an inch seam allowance down both sides. Okay, that's stitched. But we're going to turn it through just like we did before. So this is exactly the same as the big one until this next bit. Okay, so I'll just get my pokey tool again. I actually use a Pergamano tool because it's got a little ball on the end and it won't go through your fabric, so it's nice and safe. So let's just iron those seams nice and neatly. And just open those up. There we go. Nice. Oh, I do like a nice press. And with the, so just imagine this could be the big one. This could be the medium one, okay? This is the small one. This is what I decided to do with the small one, but it could be done on any of the bags. So with your get two little quilting clips, and I want you to measure in 1 inch from each side. So if we look on the overhead, in fact I'll put it on my mat because I need to use that measurement and it's easier for you to see. So if I line it up on the mat, so we got an inch square there. So all I want you to do is to bring that in 1 inch and pop your clip there. Okay, so this can be done for any of them. It could be done for all of them. It's entirely up to you, but this is just another way of doing a different bottom or a different side. So with this one, again, I'm lining it up on the 1 inch square there, and I'm just bringing it over to there. And that's, oops, nearly, that's going to create my side seam. Before we finish this little bag, we do have to do the French seams. I just wanted you to see the next process. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the French seams, but then we're going to stitch right across the bottom, even though there's a fold in there. So if I show you the little bag, oh, here it is, you can see that it has a seam. Okay, now that should be a folded bottom by any rights, but we're not going to do that. We're going to stitch right across. So let me quickly show you how that works. It's important that you see. So I'll just undo those. So we'll do that French seam. So I wanted you to see the whole process. So we'll do the French seam all the way up. We'll trim those threads in just a second. Don't worry about back stitching, because again, these will all be stitched in. Okay. So when we look at it again, let's just trim the threads. Trim the threads. Right, so we've done our French seams here and here. So what we're going to do is turn that over 1 inch. You can really get your rulers out and measure this if you want to, and then do your 1 inch again. So get this lined up on your board and flip it over 1 inch. And then we're going to stitch right across this bottom here. Now it doesn't have to be 1/4 inch. That could still be 1/8 inch. So don't think it has to be, because that's what we've been doing. It's actually a fold of fabric, so there's nothing to encase. So make it 1/4 inch or just a little bit less. Do a little back stitch on that, and then go all the way across the bottom. And then I'm just making sure my foot doesn't wriggle my pleat. A back stitch again. So let's just trim our threads. So you might think, well, I'm going to lose 1/2 inch of my bag. Well, it's not much, and it is a small bag. It's meant for, you know, perhaps little glittery gifts, you know, sort of diamond shape, that sort of thing. So there you can see how that looks, okay, and that gives you a faux sort of side gusset. If we turn it through, get my poker tool again. And this is weird because there's some of it you don't have to poke through because it's all part of the seam. So there we go. And you could press those pleats in at the side. You could really make them super neat. It's entirely up to you. So I think I've got it all. There we go. So turn that through. So when we look at it now, can you see it's got a bit of a pleat going on? And in actual fact, I do like to press these. But you can do this when you're finished. I'm not going to show you how to put the channel on because I've just shown you that. So just sort of pleat it with your fingers. Get all the seam lined up inside nicely. Go across the bottom. I didn't think I'd pushed that out enough. That's it. Do the same on the other side. Just bring those over, get those lined up at the top, give it a press. There we go. So that's the small one with the faux side gusset. It looks nice, doesn't it? And equally you could do that on the medium bag and the large bag, and looks really nice. And that's how the carry bag is done in actual fact. So that's a small bag, so we need to put the channel on. I've got it all ready to go, so I'll finish that off another time. You've seen how to put the channel on. So the medium sized bag that has the bottom flip up, the bottom gusset. So again, I've got as far as stitching the two pieces together, obviously back and front, and I've done my 1/8 inch seam allowance here. Now with this one, we're going to turn it through and fold it and then do our French seams, okay? So I'm going to turn it through. Push out the corners. I think I'll put the iron on this so it's nice and beautiful. Push the corners out. And then let's get our iron in. Now with this one, the bottom gets folded up and gets caught in the French seam. It'll make sense in a moment, hopefully. All will become clear. And you know what, you will take more time than me, but just so you can see how it's done. And I don't think that's perfectly pressed. I'm going to try and ignore it. So let's just have a quick look. So I've turned it through. So this is the one that has the faux sort of, it is really a faux boxy bottom, but all you've done is you've pleated it. So with this one, if we look at it on the overhead again, so this is what it looks like. And the only bag that has this is the medium bag, but you could do it with all of the other ones, okay? So you've got all of those choices of what you can do. So with this one, you're just going to fold it up 1 inch. So let's use the clips. So again, you're going to just fold it up like that. And then on the other side, you're going to fold it up like that, okay? You can iron that if you want to. In fact, I will, because it makes a difference. It just is aesthetically pleasing. There we go. Not too bad. So then all we're going to do is we're going to do our French seams now, all the way up both sides, and that will encase this little pleat here. And it's quite magical how it becomes a nice boxy bottom. Well, it's like a faux boxy bottom, really. But you're going to incorporate that fold up in the French seam. So just be careful when you're going over your French seams that you don't twist them. To be honest, it's inside the bag, so you know it's not desperately important, but you want it to look nice, don't you? And then just come down the other side. And then just catch those seams, and then I'm going to take the clip out. You can see how it looks. And just make sure that's underneath my foot. Little back stitch, and we're done. Okay. So the next thing is to put the channels on, just like we did with the big bag. You've seen how I've done that. It's just exactly the same as we did before. So that shows you how that little boxy bottom looks, and it's been caught in the side seams. So if we turn that through, you get so used to working on the wrong side with these, it always feels a bit weird to push them through to the right side. It's like, whoa, they're bright. And then just push down, getting those corners out. Like I said, there's only so far you can push them out because they've been caught in a pleat. I think that's it. Catch any little frayed edges you've got there sticking out, and then you can see how that looks. So if I was to open that up, you can see that you've got this faux boxy bottom, and there we go. So it makes a difference when you press it, doesn't it? And it gives it that sort of little bit of depth and dimension without being too obvious, and it still keeps that sort of squared bag look. And then you've got the drawstring on top of that. So that's the bag. So that's the large one that keeps the squared off bottom. Obviously that's the easiest one to think about. Then you've got the medium one, which has the one we just did, which has the pleat at the bottom there that gives it a boxy effect. And then you've got the little one that has the side pleat, which gives that sort of effect there. So they're all quite different. Okay, so let's put them down there. So the other one we need to have a look at is the carry bag. Now the carry bag is made exactly the same as the other bags. In other words, you're joining these pieces here with a French seam. Then you're joining the bottom with a French seam, but we're actually doing that pleat. So we need to remember to do that. So we do the French seam first, and then we catch it, if you like, in the side seams. And the top is just literally turning over a quarter of an inch again, and then doing your French seams. You can see there the French seams on the shoulders. So we'll do a bit of that. The main thing with this is the cutting out of the pattern. So you've got two pattern pieces there. So this is like it looks a bit like a t-shirt, doesn't it? So this is the front piece, and this is like the arm piece that you're going to cut out here, like that. So I'm going to cut mine all at the same time. You don't have to. Again, if you've got directional fabric, please be aware of what direction this is all going in. So just to find the middle, I'm just going to fold this in half. So I've got both pieces, back and front, and I'm just going to take a little clip out of the middle, so I know that's the centre. So I've got to cut a little V out. There we go. So if you look on the overhead, you can just make out that V cut out of the fabric there. If I do the same with the pattern piece, just fold it in half and cut a little V out. And then all you need is a little bit of fabric spray, just a temporary one, just a little bit. little bit on the other piece as well. It needs it back and front, so we might as well do that while we're there. And then pop that over the top, and that's your pattern piece. So because these are 2 layers, I am actually going to pin this so those 2 layers don't move, because obviously the pattern is sticking on the front piece of the fabric, but it's not sticking on that layer underneath, so we still need to make sure those layers don't move. So if we look on the overhead now, you can see how that's all pinned together, and we're just going to cut around that, but the pattern piece is stuck on. It's moved slightly. Let's just get that lined up. That's it, that's a bit better. And then you're just going to cut. Now you might find bigger scissors perfect. In actual fact, you know what, if I was stood up, I'd be using my rotary cutter, my little rotary cutter. 28mm would be fine, but we'll just use these little scissors. And you might find, especially with these curves going around the centre, this cutout in the centre, that you might want to clip the edges a little bit. I'll explain that as I'm going along. So again, let's just finish this last little bit there. We don't need that piece. You could use that as a pocket inside if you wanted. And then with this little pattern piece, just offer it up to both sides. Again, you might want to pin your fabric just to keep those 2 layers together. I could have got a bit bigger scissors really, but hey. And then cut around. Okay. And then we don't need that bit, that's spare. And then you're going to put the pattern piece on. Let's get it so it's the right way round, I'm to think then. So you're going to flip that pattern piece over. If you've got any glue on it, it will stick nicely. And then just cut. Let's just move that around. There we go. Okay, so those are those 2 pieces cut out now. So if I bring those in, I'll just remove my pins. Can't see the pins, it's such lovely bright fabric. Okay, so we don't need that piece as well now. So we've cut those out. So what we can do, you can either stitch these top bits now, or you can stitch on your bottom halves. So we'll stitch on the bottom halves to make it one whole piece for the front and back. And then what we'll do is we'll stitch this top part. It's like I said to you before, it's a bit like a t-shirt. So don't forget it's wrong sides together, because this is a French seam as well. So I have to think wrong sides together. Still have to think about it. And again, this is really worth getting your iron ready and giving the whole thing a nice press when you've done, and trimming those fabrics again. So a little 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Check to make sure that all your fabrics are laying on top of each other. And just go from side to side. Because it's such a tiny little seam, just make sure, like I said, those fabrics are sitting nicely on top of each other. So there's our first piece. There we are. And I hold it down with the iron and I pull with the other hand. Not hard, but just enough to separate the seams, if you like. Ready for the next part. Now what you could do is, if I can find my scissors, there we go. What you could do is then fold this entire piece over so the seam is just where it needs to be, and give that a press. It might save you a little bit of time when you take it to the machine. Certainly, you know, in my own time, that's what I would do. And that gives you a lovely sharp crease to follow. So we'll do it with one. So don't forget to finish this off. It's the same seam as the medium bag. So if you have a look at that medium bag again, because I'll do so much of this just to show you how it's constructed basically. I mean, it's so easy. I think you'll be fine. Straight across. Okay, so that's your French seam done. And I have to say, it just gives it a lovely, neat look, doesn't it? Look lovely. Love that fabric. My little foxy is the right way around. There's my little foxy just there, look. Can you see him? So again, give that a nice press. And like I say, you're finishing this off exactly the same as the medium bag, okay? You don't have to. You could have it so it's just squared off at the bottom. It's a nice big bag. Or you could do the... If you don't do the side vents, you can do the bottom vent. You can do it that way, a different way. When it comes to doing the top part, what it looks like a t-shirt, you're literally folding over approximately 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch again, okay? Now, although you've got curves, it will go. You might find on the, I'm going to call the neckline, the middle section cut out, you might need to clip it a little bit because it's quite a sharp curve, but you shouldn't need to on these two side pieces, and I'll show you. And don't be too hung up about keeping to that 1/4 inch, because you're folding it on a curve sort of opposite to how it wants to go. It'll fight you. So if it needs to go a little bit narrower, you just let it go a little bit narrower. But generally, you should be able to keep it fairly neat. So, there's one done. So you can see how that looks. Needs a little bit of a press. There we go. You can see, really neat, isn't it? And like I say, because it's not lined, I'm finger pressing that. Because it's not lined, it's going to save you a lot of money and time. So we're just going to clip into that neckline there, like I said, just because it allows the fabric to fold a little bit better. Right, so we'll do the same with the neckline. I'm going to keep saying that, aren't I? With the centre cut out. So you're just going to follow it all the way around. So let's just bring that machine in a bit better for you. So you're folding over approximately 1/4 inch, approximately. You mustn't get, like I say, you mustn't get too worried about it. The main thing is that you're going to make it really neat, a neat finish. And because this is kind of on the bias a little bit, it will stretch a little bit as you go around these curves. Put your needle down, use the facility of the machine. You know, I just kind of fold it with my fingers, hold it. You could put clips in here, you could use pins. You know, just take your time. It is easy. With like this quilting cotton, it's a little bit stiffer. If you used more of an open weave, say for instance like a canvas fabric, you would find it a lot easier because it's more of an open weave. But with quilting cotton, it can be a little bit stiff, a little bit unforgiving, I suppose, but it does make a nice, neat job. So you're just literally folding that with your fingers and letting the machine take it down. You can see how easy it is. I haven't had to struggle. I haven't had to sort of pull and tug and get cross. That's it. So you're going to do this on both pieces, okay? And like I said before, I'm only going to take you so far because I've shown you how to do all of the different sorts of seams. So there we are. You've seen me do both of those now. They need a press. They need a press. It all needs a press. But you can see, I'll show you the wrong side. You can see how neat that is. You can see I've done this one as well. Just need to do the other one. And then obviously you're going to repeat that for the other side. So you've got two pieces to make the bag. And obviously it's wrong sides together to actually do the next part, which is the French seams down the sides and around the bottom. And you're going to do French seams to put the tops together as well, and that's the last bit. In the pattern you'll see that's the last bit you do. And then when you come to do the bottom, you can decide whether you're going to fold over, and it tells you in the instructions how much to fold over. And in this instance, it's 2 inches. So you're going to fold those sides in 2 inches, just like we did before, and stitch along the bottom to hold that all together. Okay, so it's dead easy. It's just one of those lovely makes. But then you can change it, and you can do it so the bottom has that pleat. It's entirely up to you. But either which way, you're going to end up with a beautiful bag. And like I say, 4 fabulous patterns. So this is the gift giving bag. So let me just get those up for you again so you can see. I'll put this to one side, finish it later. And you're getting the carry bag, which we just started just before, so you can see how that shape looks. And because this has got the side, I'm going to put it on my arm so it holds better. Because it has the side pleat in, look, I've pressed it, and you can see that's how it sits. If you did the bottom pleat, it would look different. So you could try both, couldn't you? But I think it gives you a really nice, big, solid bag. But bring those 2 shoulders together, put a little bow through there, and that is your big carry bag. That could take a lot of jewellery, couldn't it? So that's the carry bag. And then you've got the 3 different sizes of the drawstring bag. So you've got the large, which just has the squared off bottom. You have the medium that has the bottom folded bottom. And then you've got the side fold on the little one. So obviously with the carry bag, that has the small side pleats, which I think look great. But you please yourself what you do. So those are the 4 patterns that you get in the pattern pack. And so this is the gift giving bags. Just lie them down. So don't forget, it's a download on my website. If you go to lizzycurtis.com, you'll find all the patterns to download in the shop, and this is one of them. And I hope you make loads.